Okay. Here we go. Right. I think everything's good. Hello, everybody. This is going to be a chill stream. Talking about Daredevil Born Again. Some review went up a couple days ago. And in it, I addressed a lot of the issues I have with the show. Well, first off, I'm a big fan of the Netflix Daredevil series. Big fan. Thought that show was great. So back in the day, when I was more into keeping up with all the intricacies of that stuff, I watched season 1 and 2 when it came out. During that time, I was also watching the other Netflix shows like Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist. Oh, can you make up your mind? Are you connected or are you not connected? What are we doing here? Am I live? I'm live. Okay. That was strange. Where was I? I thought Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. Okay, we connected? We good? Really don't know what's going on. What is happening? Are we good now? We good now? We live? Okay. Like I was saying. What was I saying? So back in the day, I watched Daredevil seasons 1 and 2, and I watched Defenders. Sort of fell off it for a while. It's only kind of recently that I watched Daredevil season 3, which kind of blew me away and really got me like into the show again. So I did that in preparation for Born Again. And I really went into Born Again not knowing exactly what to expect. I had heard mixed things. I'd heard from some people that it was like really good, and I'd heard from others that it was kind of a disappointment. So I went in cautiously optimistic. So going into that first episode, I'm like, okay, let's see what this goes. This has got potential. And then it proceeded to crap all over my expectations, my hopes, my dreams, all of my dreams. Because it was very not good. Like that first episode, the first 15 minutes is a gut punch, and not in the good way. You know, it's in the. There was a long time where I was sort of, I won't say denial, but just baffled by Foggy's death. Like the fact they killed him so unceremoniously, so suddenly, so unceremoniously, dead. Boom. And then, on top of that, to then immediately cut a year later. All the fallout, all the grieving, the mourning, we just skip right over all that, which is insane. Insane. Like, that's a completely baffling writing decision. Why would you ever kill one of the primary characters of the show? Like, the show is Karen, Foggy, and Matt. That's the show. They kill him, and then they skip a whole year. A whole ass year. We don't get to live with it. You know, we don't get to feel what the characters feel. We immediately just get over that. And then Karen fucks off in the most baffling scene. She just leaves. It's like, why? Why are you doing this? This is very unlike you. It's very out of character for Karen, especially after the events of season 3. Because if you remember in season 3, Matt was tripping balls in the worst way possible. He was acting a fool, and Karen was fed up with him. She's like, this dude can't be dealing with him. But, you know, she had to talk with Foggy, talk with Maggie about how Matt's in a really bad place right now, and he's used to people abandoning him, and so he's trying to push everyone away. But they can't just let him do that. They can't let him push them away. They have to be there for him to help him through this tough time he's having. And then you get to Born Again, and it's like we just skip. We just like ignore that. You know? For some reason she thinks that it's cool to just leave. I guess. I don't know. Only for episode 9 to bring her back and then kind of act like her leaving is never really addressed. We sort of act like she never did, kind of. Or we act like she didn't leave of her own volition. We act like that it wasn't something she chose to do inexplicably. Which is, you can really tell that well, because if you don't know, the show went over a bit of a creative overhaul. The original creative team working on the show was fired and replaced with a new one. And at that point, they'd filmed like 6 episodes. So when the new team came on, they decided to not scrap everything. They kept those 6 episodes. They filmed 3 new episodes. And then they also filmed a bunch of extra scenes and stuff. And they reshot things for the 6 episodes already done. And so, to a certain extent, the new team was hamstringed, if that's the right term, by decisions the old team made, such as Foggy's death and the fact that all of the supporting cast from the previous show was just gone. So they had no choice but to deal with that reality. And so they had to, which is why in the first 15 minutes, Foggy just dies. because he was dead. They had to kill him. So they had to kill him if they were going to keep those original 6 episodes. And Karen they had to write a scenario where Karen would fuck off for the whole season because she wasn't around. And I guess they couldn't. Probably would have been too much of a hassle to try and film a bunch of new scenes to act like she was there the whole time. So they decided she just fucked off. It was very not nice of her. And also I don't think it's in character. Yeah. And throughout the whole show, we basically lose the whole cast from the old show. They're just gone. Which is part of what contributes to this very un-Daredevil-like feeling of the show. It feels very strange. It struggles to capture the feeling of a proper continuation of the Netflix series. In a lot of ways. And just the fact that the entirety of the original cast, not the entirety, but almost to the entirety, is straight up gone. We have Matt, we have Fisk, we have Vanessa. And that's all we get. Everyone else is gone inexplicably. And if you left off from season 3, this is very jarring. Like, Foggy's wife-to-be, Marcy, is gone. They don't even mention her. In fact, in episode 1, they imply that they must have broken up or something because he's flirting with someone else. Unless he's a cheating hoe. I guess that's a possibility, but it's not really how the show presents it. Like I said in my review, I can only think that one of the reasons they decided to ditch her, well, first off, the old team seemed pretty hell-bent on ditching like everybody. All the characters. There's no explanation really for why it's decided to do that, but it's decided to do that. But second off, excuse me, Marcy, assuming that she and Foggy did get married in the, I think, almost 10-year gap in the timeline between season 3 and this, assuming that did happen, they would have had to deal with basically her grief. Like, they deal with Matt's grief somewhat. It's obviously it's muted because they decided to skip a whole fucking year. And it's just Matt's grief, really, because, they ditch all the other characters. Karen's gone. So they do deal with characters' grief over Foggy's death somewhat. But if Marcy was still around, they definitely would have had to deal with it, like, to a much greater extent. Because that would have been... There wouldn't necessarily be anything distracting that character from the grief of Foggy's passing, because she's so tied to him directly. So they ditched her, and we also lost characters like Maggie. Maggie is a big one. I feel like the whole time watching the show, I'm like, where's Maggie? And they actually do reference her. Unlike Marcy, they reference Maggie. But, again, they do it in an absolutely bizarre way. Like, first of all, it's clearly ADR. Which is kind of... That's insane. They had to ADR in a line about Matt referencing his mom that he reconnected with in season 3. Because apparently the original team did not even mention that. Like, they had this whole bit. It's in episode 5 when he's talking to, was it Yusuf? That's where they ADR'd in the line. And I think the new team, because the new team was obviously trying to add more connective tissue. They even say as much with the old show. Tried to add connective tissue, obviously. Plus, in that episode, there is the explicit mention of his upbringing to a certain extent. He calls himself an orphan, that his dad died, things like that. So I guess the new show felt, well, we gotta mention his parentage, right? Because it feels weird not to. That's what I would assume. It would feel strange to bring that up, but then very deliberately avoid mentioning his dad who died and mentioning his mom who is alive and he reconnected with. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm a little gassy. 2018. But season 3 really set her up as sort of the new... Because in season 3 we lost Father Landon. We lost him. Bullseye killed his ass. And we set up the idea of Maggie becoming the sort of new mentor figure for Matt. That's very much set up, especially from a religious standpoint. Because big part of Netflix Daredevil was his religion, his Catholicism. That it was a central pillar of his character, and his morality as a person was largely derived from those beliefs. And you had many scenes in season 1, 2, and 3 of Matt talking to the priest, and debating about all kinds of religious matters in the context of his own choices, of choices he was trying to make, that he was struggling with in as Daredevil, the choices he was struggling with as Daredevil. Big one is killing. Matt has a very strong, strict no kill rule. That's his thing, and that is largely, there is a largely religious component to that belief. He believes in redemption. He believes that even criminal scum deserve the opportunity to redeem themselves, to change. You see that play out in, there's a little bit of it in season 3, where Ghost Fisk tells Matt that, like, what if I changed? What if I'm not the same man, and I'm actually want to help people now with the knowledge I have? And obviously, Ghost Fisk is sort of an aspect of Matt's own, what's the word? His own mind talking to him. It's a way of him dealing with his own thoughts. So obviously, Ghost Fisk and Ghost Dad are, the beliefs they express are things that Matt is thinking about to a certain extent. Things he may or may not believe, but are things at least he's thinking about. So that was something he genuinely considered at the time. That, like, well, it's possible that Fisk has actually changed. And of course, we rehash that in Born Again. But it's lamer. They don't do it as well. Sort of lost my train of thought for a second. Religion. I was talking about that. So yeah, there's the belief that change is possible. That's a component of his belief in not killing. And also I think there's the idea of not wanting to cross that line, not wanting to be like the criminals that kill mercilessly, and not thinking he should be able to make that decision. It's also tied to him being a lawyer and believing in justice and the law, because he does. He believes in justice and the judicial system. Obviously, he's a vigilante. He takes the law into his own hands. But to a certain extent, he does think that the law is necessary and should be upheld. He doesn't think it's his place to kill, to make that decision. So season 1, 2, and 3, 1s, 2s, and 3s dealt a lot with his religion, and Born Again does not. There's like almost all of his religiousness has been stripped away. It's almost non-existent in the show. There's like barely any references to it, aside from at one point in episode 2, he stands in front of a church and listens to a sermon for a little bit. I don't recall exactly what the sermon is about, but I don't think it has much to do with what's actually happening in the show. It's just sort of what's the word? Atmosphere. It's a flavor text, something like that. And Matt prays like once or twice. But aside from that, we really get nothing. No, what am I saying? No trace of his religion is present. It's not a very important part of the season. It's not an important part of the show. It's not an important part of his character. Just very, 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 very occasionally, the show tries to pay lip service to the idea of his religion, but it's otherwise it's not there. And so I think part of the reason Maggie, bringing it back around, Maggie isn't there is because part of her purpose in season 3 and beyond was meant to be a wise religious figure to help Matt through these questions. But obviously without the religion, there's like, what's the point of having a character like that? If it would make it more conspicuous, the absence of religion, having her around, but also not addressing his religious beliefs, it would be foolish. So I think that's part of the reason she's Gano. And a lot of the other characters too are Gano. Mahoney's gone. Can't have any good cops in the show because that would distract from the theme, the muddled theme, I guess. We did get okay, so in the new showrunners, the new creative team decided to bring back Bullseye and use him as Foggy's killer. Which to a certain extent, I think they kind of had to. Like, I think originally Foggy died off screen to some unknown criminal. Like I don't think it was actually relevant at all to the season Foggy's death. The old showrunners just for some reason were fucking hell bent on getting rid of the old cast. They wanted them gone. Gano. They wanted them gonorrhea. And so I guess for whatever reason, they thought it was a great idea to use Foggy, to kill Foggy off screen and use that as an excuse to get rid of the whole old cast. And also as an excuse to get him to get Matt out of the suit. Because it's bizarre. They both wanted to be the old team both wanted to start anew, start afresh, to dissociate the new show with the old show as much as they could, while also aping off the same plot points of the old show. So like I mentioned in my review, there's so much retreading of season 3 in particular. Which is ironic, because the show's called Born Again, but season 3 adapted the Born Again storyline. Which makes you question, like, so it's just like, why'd you call it Born Again if it doesn't have anything to do with the actual story? And the creative team, the behind the scenes guys, they even admit they're not adapting the Born Again story, but they call it Born Again, and they make up some bullshit reason like, well, you know, it's because it's like meta. It's like the show's back. It's been born again in a sense. And that's like, I don't buy it. I think you just wanted to use the name because it's super recognizable. And you didn't care that season 3 already adapted that storyline. You just wanted to use the name. You dumb bastards. You silly bastards. As the Irishman in the show would say. You silly bastard. You wee silly bastard. So yeah, it's Born Again is this strange mix of aping off what the Netflix series already did, retreading the same plot points, while also trying to dissociate itself from that old show as much as it could. Going so far as that, it boggles the mind. Like, I don't know what their thought process was. What made them think, okay, we're bringing back Born Again, or we're bringing back Daredevil. Let's get rid of all the shit people like and replace it with our own bullshit. Was it hubris? When they came up with the characters of Heather and Cherry, did they think, oh my god, this is the shit. We've done it. We've recreated the wheel. We've King Midas's touch. We've turned shit into gold. We've done it. We're so great. We are so back. Hashtag let's fucking go. Did they really think that? Did they really think they were cooking with gas with those characters? With those lame ass characters? Did they think they had something there? I wanna give them the benefit of the doubt and say no, they knew that those characters were shit, but if they knew they were shit, why didn't they improve them, you know? I've heard that it likely has to do with wanting to make it accessible for a new audience. So they wanted to sort of do away with the baggage of the old show, so that new viewers would not feel out of the loop. They would not feel like they didn't know what was going on. And so that was part of the reason why they decided to start afresh, start anew. Which, like, that's not... I understand. I can understand that thought process. But I don't agree with it. No, because simultaneously they were banking off of the old fans. Of the name recognition of Daredevil. There's no doubting that. They were banking off of that. Even going back to She-Hulk. If you remember the marketing, I believe the marketing had a bunch of Daredevil, or, it featured Daredevil. He became a selling point of the She-Hulk show. And it's like, well, who are you marketing that towards? It's like, obviously, the fans, excuse me, the fans of the Netflix series, the old fans, that old continuity. That continuity was being banked off of to get people to watch that show. And I also think the initial announcement of Daredevil coming back, oh god, that initial announcement, I think also heavily banked off of the fans of the old show. You know, the hype that, the only reason there was hype for it was because it was a known property. And then to turn around and try to make a show that is divorced from that old continuity to try and attract new fans, I think is what's the word? Disingenuous. I think it's lame. I think it's dishonest. Are you familiar with She of Talks? I think so. Yeah, he does those big Star Wars reviews, right? Yeah, I've seen some of his stuff, and I'm a fan. Oh, the moon. So, yeah. And also trying to, hold on a second. Okay, I'm back. I turned on a fan because it's kind of hot. Hopefully that's not, I'm hoping that's not too noisy. So yeah, and the way they went about trying to make it more accessible, trying to dissociate from the old show by killing an old character off screen. So from the perspective of a new viewer coming to this series for the first time, having so little Daredevil without explanation early on, because in those first, if you're just looking at those first 6 episodes, he doesn't even get into the suit until episode 6. Or I guess episode 5, if we're looking at those original 6 as a whole. 5 episodes until he gets to the suit. He's refusing to do so for the first 4. And in the episode where we see Frank again, I found this interesting. From the perspective of the old team, imagining, because I don't know if that scene was from the new team or the old team. There's a good chance it was the new team. But if it was from the old team, looking at that scene, they kind of treat bringing up Foggy's death as, they almost treat it like a reveal. The way they talk about it, because they're vague about it at first. Frank says, "You lost him, didn't you? You lost him." It doesn't say his name. And then they have that exchange where Frank's like, say his name. And Matt won't. Then I think Frank is the one that finally says Foggy's name. Matt says that he got life. Referencing the criminal that killed Foggy in the final show. It's Bullseye, but that was added material, Like if you're watching that scene when Frank says bullseye, it's ADR. So it says the criminal, he got life. Frank says, what about old Foggy? He get life? Which is, to me, looking at that scene from the perspective of it being part of the old show that did not have that first episode, it's treated like a reveal. Now, if you're a new viewer, that reveal means nothing to you. Like, assuming you're a new fan who's using Born Again as his jumping off point, as his foray into the series. You don't know who Foggy is. And so that reveal doesn't mean anything to you. Which makes it more baffling. The idea that they were trying to just appeal to new viewers. And so the new team decided... Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry about that. Oh. Decided to pivot. Instead of shying away from referencing the old show, they would go out of their way to do so. So you get a lot of ADR in those first episodes 2 through 7. You get a lot of ADR and reshot scenes to get that old stuff back in there. You know what I'm saying? Get it back in there. Did I do this wrong? No, I don't know. But it fumbles, it falters, it blunders, it bamboozles itself. It bingle dongles, it schling schlongles. It falters, it falls off, it does not do it well. I'll say that much. It does not do it well. And I'll tell you why. 'Cause it sucks. So like I say in my review, the first episode does a lot of damage to the rest of the show. Because it sets up the status quo that I don't think works at all. First of all, it kills Foggy in a really unceremonious, downright insulting manner. And then it immediately has Matt try to kill Bullseye, breaking his no kill rule. Which is, I find insulting because that was such a big part of his character in the first 3 seasons. It was such a big part of his struggle. It was about whether he should kill or not. Is it justified? Is he justified in killing? Especially someone like Fisk. I remember those talks between him and Punisher. Like the famous rooftop scene. With their contrasting ideologies. And the Netflix show played with the idea of Matt potentially going through with and breaking his rule. We did that multiple times. Season 2, he flirted with the idea of breaking his rule to kill the blacksmith. The blacksmith. That was the guy. Teaming up with Frank to kill the blacksmith. He flirted with the idea. Which, sorry, I'm so gassy. Frank, as a proponent of killing his enemies, smacked him down from that. He was like, this isn't just a one-time thing. Just do it once and that's it. Which I think largely helped. Hearing that from Frank of all people, helped to set him straight there. And then we played with it more seriously in season 3, where he genuinely he's gone down this dark rabbit hole. He's lost hope. He sees that Fisk gets out of prison, and you can see that he's manipulating the FBI, and he's like, this is bullshit. He sees all the work he did in season 1 to get all the work Foggy and Karen did to get Fisk behind bars. It was like it was undone in an instant. It's just so easily. And he's in a bad place. He's trying to push people away. He's trying to basically say, I'm going to be Daredevil only, Matt Murdock never. And he's losing his faith in his religion, which, as you recall, served as the sort of base, the pillar stone of his own morality, was religiously based. And he's losing that connection. And so his morality is slipping. And so he genuinely considers killing Fisk. But in the end, he decides not to. And that, what I think is one of the greatest, most powerful speeches of the show, when he tells Fisk that he doesn't get to destroy who he is. Because not killing is like a core part of who Matt is. And to break that rule, to go against it, would be to lose that part of who he is. You see that in season 3. Especially Foggy, characters talk about losing Matt, potentially losing Matt, trying to get Matt back. It's in Defenders a little bit too, if I remember. If I remember correctly. And so, by the end of season 3, that moment is very satisfying. Cut to board again, where he, in the first 15 minutes, he makes a snap decision in the heat of the moment, tries to kill Dex, and that completely changes, that causes him to quit being Daredevil, sort of. It's one of the reasons, at least. Which is why I have such a problem with it, because it's, as I described in my review, it's narratively cheap. The show did not earn that moment. It did not put in the proper work to get that payoff. It just took it. It cheated, it took it. It killed Foggy in a brutal, unceremonious, bullshittery way. It did it in a shocking way to elicit a strong emotional response for the audience. Relying on that to then justify Matt trying to kill Dex. Because it wants the audience to not reject that moment. It wants them to understand why he did it. And to be like, okay, I understand why he did it. And to not realize how cheap it is. Where did... Was that a tangent? I sort of lost my train of thought there. Right. So that's Foggy's death and Matt's attempt to kill. Then skip a year. Bullseye's going to prison. And no one, Matt included, questions Bullseye's motives, which is odd. They say he was trying to get back at his perceived enemies. They reiterate this in episode 8. Cherry does. So they're saying that, like, oh, the idea is that he killed Foggy out of revenge, and no one, including Matt, questions this. No one questions this, which is weird. Because revenge for what? What did Dex have against Foggy? Nothing. Right? They barely met. They barely interacted. Foggy never did anything. I don't think Foggy did anything that Dex was particularly upset about. You know? Like, what's he getting revenge for? Now, obviously, the reveal at the end of the season is that he was not after revenge. He was hired by Vanessa to go and kill Foggy. Honestly, the fact that, and the only reason they don't figure this out sooner is because, for some reason, they don't question the idea that Bullseye was settling an old score with Foggy, even though Matt, over everyone else, knows that that's a bullshit. That doesn't make any sense. But conveniently, he does not question this, so that the rest of the show can happen. It partially paints Matt as a dodo head. Everyone else too, Karen included. Like, she didn't. Did neither Matt nor Karen talk to Dex? Did they not question him at all? Oh, I see. I bungled this. And that's stupid. Because, like, the idea of Dex going after his enemies, perceived enemies, going for revenge, it's like, well, obviously he'd go after Fisk and Vanessa. Those are the people that ruined his life. He hates Fisk more than anything. And to get back at Fisk, he's willing to kill Vanessa. That was proven at the end of season 3. So why, oh why, would Dex go after Foggy instead of Fisk and Vanessa? You know what I'm saying? Characters don't question this. They're stupid. They're dumb. They're not smart. They're incompetent. They're incontinent. They're inexorable. They're Mr. Estupido. That brings up the issue of why didn't Dex go after Vanessa and Fisk? He has no reason to take Vanessa's deal, at least seriously. Like, I could buy that he's like, oh yeah, okay, Vanessa, I'll go kill Foggy, and then he just kills her, because like, why wouldn't he? Why would he do what she says? Why would he go to kill Foggy, get himself arrested, and head back to prison? Okay, right back. All right. I think I disconnected for a second there. What was I saying? Oh yeah, Bullseye. Dex. Benjamin Poindexter. He is a character I like a lot. My back. Ah. I think I am back. Perchance. So I'm going to go a little bit longer. Then I'm going to end it, I think. Yeah, I was having some crazy internet troubles. It's been happening for the past couple weeks. It's really annoying, if I do say so myself. So hopefully there's no more issues. What was I talking about when we last left off? Who's to say? Who is to say? Yes, I'm back. trying to remember what I was talking about. Oh, no. Suppose we could talk about. Okay, I think I was talking about the idea of whether Born Again, prior to the shakeup with the new creative team with the new episodes, was actually accessible to new viewers, to viewers that have never had never seen Daredevil before, and I don't think so. I think there were still too many things up in the air, unresolved. Also, the fact that a huge component of Born Again, even before the creative team shakeup, a big component. I'm gonna sneeze. Oh, hold on. Okay, there it goes. A huge component of the show is the dynamic between Matt and Kingpin. Matt and Fisk. Which is something not... Like, I don't think they present it in a manner that is friendly to new viewers. Like, if you don't have context for their dynamic, then I don't know if you could truly grasp what the big deal is between them. I mean, you do get the sense that Kingpin's a bad guy, or he used to be a bad guy before Echo messed up his brain. A bad guy that Daredevil had previously fought with. And there's no context for exactly what that is. The new showrunners tried to add all the context back, but it run into some issues. Like the fact that as of Hawkeye, Kingpin is out of prison and he's back on the streets doing Kingpin things. Which Hawkeye did not account for and Echo did not account for. So it was up to Born Again to explain how that was even possible. And in my opinion, it spectacularly failed to do so. Spectacularly. As I highlight in my review, we get the baffling line of dialogue from Vanessa where she says that because the FBI was corrupt, because of the corruption scandal with the FBI, Fisk was acquitted. Which is absolutely baffling. Because proving that the part of the corruption scandal was the fact that Fisk was the one that corrupted them to begin with. So what are you even saying? The characters have so much history that isn't told/shown to the audience. For instance, new viewers may have questions why Fisk hasn't killed Matt, even though he knows his secret identity. That is true. The show, episode 1, so this is the new showrunners trying to add context back in. They only vaguely allude to their deal from the end of season 3. Only vaguely, and I think if I had to guess why they are so vague about it, they knew that they had to address it to some extent. They knew that would be on people's minds. Um, so they had to, but they shied away from. How do I say this? From properly, fully addressing it. I think that's because they knew how wonky the status quo was. And they didn't want to draw too much attention to that fact. So, towards the end of the series, episode 9, we learned that Vanessa basically broke the deal because she had Foggy killed. At the same time, you have Fisk sort of telling people Matt's secret. It's not directly said, but the implication is that he's told Buck, his right-hand goon, that Matt is Daredevil. And to a certain extent, the crooked cops, some of the crooked cops must also know, because they go to kill Matt at his apartment. And they bring a whole squad of crooked cops, like they expect a fight. Which means that they must know they're going to encounter Daredevil. And, you could tell the show also realized that was an issue. The fact that all these crooked cops knew he was Daredevil, because at the end of that scene, a random grenade gets tossed into the building and blows everyone up. Aside from Frank and Matt. So all the people who knew his secret are now dead, I guess. But again, Matt, the status quo of the deal by the end of the season is not properly addressed. So Matt now knows that Vanessa broke the deal. The deal's off, which means in season 2, he has got to be going after Vanessa, right? To prove that she had Nadim killed. So that has to happen, right? And also, because the deal's broken, it feels like Fisk should have free reign to just break the deal more so on his end. So, what is stopping him from telling everybody that Matt is Daredevil? What's to stop him from broadcasting that to the public? That might help him, actually, to try and turn people on Matt more. He doesn't really have any reason not to, since the deal is off, and you should expect Matt to go after Vanessa now. I don't know if that will happen, because like I said, it's not properly addressed at the end of the season. There's a chance season 2 will address it. Yeah, you're right. It is kind of laughable. When it comes to Fisk doing what he wants, it's bizarre. The status quo we're in. The show has hand-waved away him being convicted at the end of season 3 with the most baffling line of dialogue about him being acquitted. And it's just, the show treats it strangely, because the show seems to know, it kind of knows that Fisk being mayor is retarded. It seems to kind of know it, and is trying to sort of compensate in ways. Like, there's a little bit of lampshading, especially I'm thinking of that scene with Gallo, where he straight up says, I don't understand this whole mayor thing. To a certain extent, the show understands that he can't really be mayor. It doesn't make any sense. And the show's very vague about what is... It's sort of vague about what the public knows about Fisk. Like, you do have characters saying that he murdered people. That he decapitated a person with a car door. referencing season 1. That's like public knowledge, which is makes him becoming mayor. The lampshading doesn't do what the show wants it to do. It wants us kind of brush aside all that baggage about what his reputation actually is. You have it with the cops too. Like he's a notorious cop killer. So why are there so many cops on his side? That doesn't make any sense. Especially the crooked cops, whose one thing is that they hate cop killers. He even murders a cop in front of them in episode 9. Which is so dumb. His tyrannical takeover of the city is baffling, because he's not oh, that's much better. He's not in a position to do that, really. Like as mayor, as opposed to a crime lord. When Fisk was just a crime lord, he could kind of get away with just doing horrible criminal shit in front of people. He could decapitate a man and then just hire his goons to take care of the body. Like, he didn't have to worry about that shit. But as the mayor, using mayoral resources to do shit, he can't get away with that as easily, because he now has people, as demonstrated by the season itself. He has people breathing down his neck, waiting for him to make a wrong move so that they could fuck his ass, you know. And that whole sequence with the rich elite, basically saying, you're like, dude, we control shit, bro. You can't just do whatever you want, bro. You gotta appease us. And then the show quickly forgets that, because that's what it do. It forgets. So him closing the bridges at Tuttle's, cutting the power to the city, unleashing crooked cops on the people, just like hand waving away due process and the need for warrants. Like, that's not gonna fly, especially when the federal government gets word of what he's doing. And, you know, I'm not an expert on the law, but I'm pretty sure he can't just arbitrarily decide that he wants to enforce martial law. Like, I'm pretty sure he can't just do that. Pretty sure there are consequences. They act like, and this might have something to do with the source material, the show acts like New York is like this secluded little island that the federal government can't touch, which is not true. I believe in the source material there is a comic run where like New York is teleported to another dimension, so it genuinely becomes like a little secluded little island. And so Kingpin doing shit like that makes more sense. There's not as much in the way, not as much stopping him from doing whatever he wants. You know? And he just does it. It happens so quickly too. Like it really, it's like 0 to 100, like just like that. And it's just his justification. He uses the Bullseye tries to assassinate him, and he somehow uses that. The show even kind of lampshades this too. He uses that to justify basically becoming a tyrant overnight. And you even have his assistant lady, Sheila, say, "You can't just do that, bro." But then Fisk was like, "How about I do anyway?" Yeah, that's absurd. I think the idea is supposed to be that he's like. Actually, now that I think about it, what is the point of cutting the power? Yeah, to a certain extent, it feels like it's just to trap Matt. Like literally, he shuts power to the whole city just for the sake of stopping Matt. I don't know. I think they try to frame. Fisk wants to try and frame the power going out as like another attack on the city, an unrelated attack on the city. I think. But obviously you can't get away with that. Like, it's only a matter of time before people learn that he was the one who had it cut. Especially because of so many people. There are so many people watching him that are in the know about what he's doing. And the idea that he's just like, oh, well, he's threatening them with like, he's got like dirt on them and stuff. And he's like kidnapped people, loved ones. It's like, but he has to do that with everybody. He like there are so many people he needs to keep in line. That he needs to keep from making a single phone call. Because like a well-placed phone call to the feds and like Fisk is done. So he needs to justify the show. The show tries to justify him keeping all these people in line with like threats and blackmail and such. But the extent to which he has to do this is ludicrous and unviable. Yeah, let's make it dark so the blind man can see. He knows Matt is blind. Why did you cut the power? As if that was going to help you. Maybe that was just to keep people from seeing Buck. Actually, now that I think about it, wouldn't the hospital have a backup generator? Isn't that kind of pointless? The light should have just come right back on, right? You know, because they kind of have some important equipment that they can't let shut off. He blackmailed 51% of the voters. I mean, how else is he meant to become mayor? Because it's ludicrous. He has an awful reputation. Especially after the end of season 3. Where Nadim's confession was released to the public. So that wasn't just something that, you know, a jury only saw or the lawyers only saw. The public all saw that tape. Which is basically a dead man saying that Fisk is killing him. And that's not something to just be brushed under the rug. Because now it's not just a legal thing. It's the court of public opinion, which in some senses can be much harsher. Okay. Oh, speaking of court of public opinion, when it becomes a tyrant at the end, it makes a lot of decisions that would make him incredibly unpopular to the public, including establishing a curfew, preventing people from leaving the city, unleashing a bunch of crooked cops that will just kill whoever. Like, those aren't exactly the sort of moves that make you really popular with people. Especially if you do it all in one fell swoop. Spider-Man is more hated in NYC than Fisk in the MCU. Yeah, that's strange. Thinking about it, in No Way Home, I think Peter faced harsher public opinion than Fisk does in Born Again, which, that's crazy. Thinking about that is insane. Because Peter allegedly killed Mysterio. He's proven innocent of that. But people still didn't like him. Fisk was convicted of much more heinous crimes, or much a larger magnitude of heinous crimes. Which is, as the show demonstrates, public knowledge to some extent. Right? You have people referencing him decapitating a guy. You have people referencing him killing cops. You have Vanessa referencing the FBI corruption scandal. Some people know about it. You know, aside from there's characters like Heather, who somehow have no knowledge of Fisk's past at all, which makes her look like a fucking idiot, you know. Yeah, Heather's just the worst. She is a moron. Honestly, by the end, it's laughable how stupid she is. It's laughable, but it's also infuriating to have her witness Fisk being, a liar. To have Matt warning her over and over again that he's a bad dude, and to have it in the end where she's just she goes to work for him because she's not smart. She can't even do even just doing a Google search of Fisk would probably reveal so much shit about us being convicted of being a murderer and shit. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'm back again. Think because of okay, I'm back. Because of the serious connectivity issues I've been having, I think I'm gonna be ending it right there. Yeah, went what did I do? 2 hours, something like that. I think that's good. I'll probably do another stream Wednesday, I think. Not sure what the topic or subject's going to be for that one, but we'll see. Maybe we'll talk more Born Again. Yeah. Thanks for being here, fellas. It's nice having a little chat. As for this drawing, I'll probably finish it off stream and post it to my community tab or post tab, whatever it's called these days. So yeah. Till next time.